Well, good evening. It's great to be here at Forest Park, and Pastor, thank you for having us. Appreciate being in from the cold weather. This city focus meeting, come on in, Sergeant, is a traveling occasion where we once a quarter basically move to another part of the city, and often in conjunction with neighborhood associations, and basically are available to the community to talk about current affairs and answer any questions that people might have. We don't have all of the staff here. Gary Sheely is traveling on business, and we're all thankful because when Gary gets the mic, he tends to go on at some length. So we're going to look to Mr. Caprella to shoulder the load tonight from the Utilities Department. So any questions about garbage, go to Mr. Caprella. Any questions about sewers, go to Mr. Caprella. And any questions about water, go to Mr. Caprella. You got that, Mike? You can handle that. Good. All right. And then we also have other department heads here. And as Councilor Lowe mentioned, Councilor Adams is here as well, and they're welcome to also make some remarks or address questions if they come up. So with that, what we'll do is I'll ask each of the department representatives to come forward, talk for a few minutes about what's going on in their department, and we'll open it up for questions as we move forward. So, Mr. Cleaves, you want to go first? Steve is the city's finance director, and we are right now in the depths of our budgeting process.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad to be here. I wouldn't describe us as being in the depths of a budgeting crisis any longer. Maybe that was a situation a few years ago, but I think with this summary, which I'm going to give you, it's much more hopeful than that. I have a couple of charts that I usually show as a background as to what the major components of our budget are. This first chart, it highlights the fact that we are a service organization, and 80% of our budget is labor. On this chart, this is labor and benefits and health care. That's all of this piece here. This smaller piece is our expenses. So when we are faced with a budget problem, we have to control our labor cost. You know, in the local news, currently, the city of Findlay is facing this. You know, every city basically has the same picture. They're all in the same business. 80% of their costs are always labor. And about 80% of this labor cost is either safety services or the legal activity which supports safety services. And that is shown on this chart. This is a chart from a prior year, so I marked with a highlighter the current percentages of where the labor cost is. This is safety services salaries. It's about 69%, say 70. The courts and legal is another 16 or 17. So these two together are actually about 85% of the total. Here we have public works, which is about 9 or 10%. That's your streets, your parks, engineering, those sorts of activities. And the balance is 6%. This would be HR, auditing, the mayor's office, the block grant activity, those departments. So again, 80% of our costs are labor, And 85% of that is safety services or safety services support. So again, what that means is to control our cost, we have to control labor, and that's precisely what we've done over the past years. If we go back to 2000, we had 450 some employees. Back to 96, we were clear up to 520. But just in this last decade, we've reduced our labor by about 140 people. We've had almost a 15-20% cut in manpower, and that's how we've managed to keep our budget balanced. Now, in the final result of that, as we're doing our budget this year, we've had a balanced budget for the last 2 or 3 years, in spite of the recession. And this chart is a little more complex, but it shows the history as to what the financial strength of the city was going back to about year 2002. These two lines, this top line is a National League of Cities average. They do a survey every year, cities across the country, asking them what is their cash balance as a percentage of their spending. Now, the best practice standard is to have about a 25% cash balance over of what your annual spending would be. Back in 2002, we were at about 15%. The national average was close to 20. So we were considerably short. In 2003, we dropped down to 8%. This is when we went out for a tax increase, which failed overwhelmingly. So it was the alternative. We're going to raise our taxes, bring on some additional safety services and streets personnel, or we're going to undergo some really heavy cuts. Tax increase failed, so we instituted a series of measures, reorganizations, and hiring freezes, delayed hiring when somebody retired or left the organization, pay freezes, a series of actions. And you can see this was a fairly prosperous time outside of the Rust Belt in the Midwest. You can see the national averages. The cash balance went from 19 up to about 25 towards the end of 2007. That was the peak of the boom. We, meanwhile, were struggling. We had brought ourselves up from disaster down here, but we were maintaining about a 13 to 15% average. And you can see there was an increase. We were improving our financial strength, and we really improved it in 2007. We had taken actions which were going to cause us to really have an improvement in 2008. But what happened in 2008 was the Great Recession. And you can see that impact on the national averages. The cities across the country, their cash balance went from a 25% down to a 17%. They had a huge loss. In 2009 and 10, it bottomed out nationwide, and the national average started to increase. Now, what happened in the city of Lima is that we had this launching pad here for an increased strength in our finances. Recession hit. We didn't have the increase, but we were able to maintain status quo. And we took further actions, looking to the future to strengthen our financial ratings. And that occurred in 2010, 2011, and on into 2012, where actually the city of Lima now is has a higher percent reserve ratio than the national average. And that's just occurred this year. So this is 2012. This is where we're at. Forecasting the next 2 years, I would expect the national average to go up into this 20% range, and the city will maintain what is considered a strong but average strength for a financial rating. So this is where we are now. So I'm anticipating that we'll maintain this through the 2013 budget year and on forward into 2014. So we're not facing the layoffs or the freezes that we were in danger of occurring back here. We never did go into a layoff mode, but we did have hiring freezes. But this recession is still serious. I expect in the paper in the coming days you'll be reading about layoffs that are going to be required in the city of Findlay. Again, 80% of their cost, safety services are related to safety services, 80% is labor. They had layoffs of 14 safety services people back in this time period when the local government fund was starting to be cut, and they knew the estate tax was going away, and those cuts are hitting us now, full force. Well, we prepared for it, so we're leveling off. Other areas didn't. They're facing another layoff of probably at least 35 individuals, possibly 40. And at least 30 of those are going to be safety services. That's not anything we have to worry about in the city of Lima because we're in pretty good shape. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thanks, Steve. We'll just go down the list here, or those seated up front. Rick Stolley's here, the Director of Parks, for some comments about what's happening in our parks and rec programming. Rick?
Thank you, Mayor. It's great to be here. I'm not sure who you dressed up like Steve Cleaves tonight with that message, but that's not the Steve Cleaves that I know. Mr. Gloom and Doom. We don't have any more. But I'll be honest with you. That is the result. Just listen to Steve. That is a result of very good people doing great things for this community, paying attention to our finances, paying attention to what needs to be done, and forecasting ways to make sure that we meet the needs of this community. And part of it is through our department. And we're very blessed to be out in the community, working with folks in the community. Primarily, we had to take some cuts, and that happened to a lot of the activities that we were involved with Parks and Rec. But people stepped up in this community, and we were able to continue to do some of the things that we were doing in the past with volunteer help. Terrific efforts. Again, when I often talk to people, I always say it's ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and a lot of that has happened for us in our parks and in our recreational programming. We've had a very great summer. It was just wrapping things up here in the last month or so, and we're gearing up for our winter activities. Everything from snow removal to youth recreational activities. We got basketball sign-ups going on now, and just wrapped up the fall tennis league and the fall volleyball. So basketball will be starting here in December, and we'll be again using our city school facilities, which has been a terrific partnership for Lima Parks and Recreation for many, many years. We're very pleased that the levy was able to pass, and all the good things can continue in that partnership that we have with Lima City Schools. We are looking forward to a terrific season of basketball, as I mentioned. That will begin in December and wrap up in February. Last year we had about 69 to 70 teams in both young ladies and young men, grades 3 through 6, playing basketball in Lima and some of our surrounding communities. So it was a trial that we tested last year, and we are looking very much forward to seeing that success again this coming winter. So if you've got some time and you want to get out on a Saturday and watch some of the future players, high school players, down the road, we invite you to get out and take in a youth basketball game at one of our facilities. We're going to try and do something this year with our web page and put some updates on that weekly so that we can get some photos of the games and generate some interest and get people out to enjoy watching these young men and young ladies get up and enjoy the spirit of competition with youth activities. Sled Hill will be opening up as soon as the snow starts to fall, and I'm sure we'll get plenty of that this year after last winter. So get out, enjoy our parks, enjoy the programming that we have available, and as always, none of this is possible without a great team, a great group of people putting things together to help bring them to fruition for Lima and the Lima community. So,
Rick, I know that Forest Park Church has been very involved with maintenance at Lincoln Park, and you want to their special interest in Lincoln Park. You might comment on what's going on.
it is a terrific partnership that Pastor Benjamin and Ted Bible and a number of folks from Forest Park have adopted. I know we've talked about this many times, Lincoln Park, and have done a terrific job of helping us to maintain that facility. It's one of those challenges that we have as our guys run over to leaf season to help with the streets, and it was just, I think it was last week, not this past weekend, the weekend before. It's always the first Saturday of the month that our friends from Forest Park step in and take over, and they just bring anywhere from 10, 20 to 40 people. They're just come out and just take over the park and help us maintain that. And each year, this is like our third or fourth year of this partnership, and each year gets just a little bit nicer. The flowers start to pop, and the place just looks great. So we've got our friends from Northside doing the same thing at Robb, and we've got various groups that will step in and help us. Eagle Scout project just finishing up at Diamond 2 as well. A young man came in and helped us redo the press box there and put new windows in and painted and did some trim work. So again, those are the efforts that a community that is worth living in is all about, and we in the Parks Department couldn't do it without the care and consideration of some terrific people in Lima. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. And Chief Hefner, you want to talk to us about the fire department and a new lime green
Lime green was one of the first things we did, was got rid of those lime green fire trucks. We now have red fire trucks if you haven't been paying attention. Now, I didn't intend to, but I'm going to dovetail on what Steve had to say, and I'm going to start out with something, but I'm going to bring it home. It's going to eventually be fire department stuff. As Steve said, we were going through the whole budget process, and I kind of brought some things to mind, but here's what came back to me. Maybe it's time to be proud to be from Lima again. Used to be, we kind of suffered an inferiority complex. We wanted to be from places like Cleveland or Houston or LA or Minneapolis or San Jose, Ann Arbor, or even Findlay. But one thing that all those cities have in common that we don't is they're laying off policemen, firefighters. They're in multi-million dollars. Some of these cities are in billion-dollar deficits coming up. We don't have that problem, and Steve showed you. Other fire departments in these cities, these major cities in this country, are cutting back on their firefighters, cutting back on services. While this is going on, the Lima Fire Department is maintaining all of our services. We're hiring new personnel, upgrading our firefighting fleet, upgrading our facilities, and we're also adding dollars to the general fund through new services that we have started to provide. That gives us a reason to be proud. But it also gives me a reason to thank the people that rarely get thanked. Firefighting is a team activity. Firefighters work as a team, they go in as a team, they're always working as a team. But the part of this team that never gets thanked and never gets acknowledged is the mayor and his administrative staff. Because of all the work, and Rick Stolley alluded to this, and Steve's also alluded to this, every department head has done his best to make the best use of the funds, to cut back, to keep us in solid financial shape, to allow the police department, the fire department, the safety services, all these other groups to do the services, give you the services that you need. So I want to thank the mayor for picking the people he has. He's done a very good job. Maybe it's time to be proud of Lima again. So here, I was kind of a soapbox, and it did eventually come back to fire department stuff. So if you have any fire department questions, I can't answer them. But last couple of days I've been going through the news. I'm really proud to be from Lima. We're doing things very few other cities are doing. So, if you have any questions? I'm here.
You want to talk about your new truck?
Speaking of new trucks. Throw me a softball. We took possession of a new fire truck on a week ago Friday, and the guys spent the last week putting it in service, adding equipment, hose, putting all the tools on it. And it is just wonderful. We had been short of trucks. We've had some breakdowns, and we were actually using our ladder truck as our #1 engine. Not the piece of equipment you want. You don't want a 70-ton truck driving down the street every time you go on a medical call or a call like that. So now we've relegated that, put it back to its usual service, and got this new truck in service. Here, if you're afraid of dollars, here, cover your ears. This was a $400,000 truck, and it was cheap. I don't mean cheap in how it's made, but for a fire truck, that's very inexpensive. We bought a stock truck. Again, we're looking for ways to get the best bang for our buck. Now, if the budget holds and things go as we really hope they do, and this is a church, so let's start praying, we're looking to purchase another fire truck next year. If this happens, we will be in the best position as far as equipment that we've been in my career. All of our trucks will meet the National Fire Prevention Association standard. I can't remember last time we've been in that position. That our frontline trucks meet this standard, as do our reserve apparatus. So our equipment will be top-notch. It will be new. It will, with any luck, be very reliable. We'll be hiring new people, so we'll have some young blood in the department. I'm excited. This is the most excited I've been in a long time. I've been chief for almost 5 years now, and I'm very excited. And a lot of that goes back to the people in these rooms, the administrators and the department heads. So, again, I offer them a lot of thanks for their support.
Now we need our garbage man to step up. Mr. Caprella. Yes, sir.
You want me to follow Mark with that cheerleading thing? Jeez. He forgot to mention without my department, he wouldn't have any water in his hydrants, so he wouldn't really have much of a department. So that's right. You've got to, I won't even go there. All right. It's good to be here. I am an East Ender at heart. I grew up on Collins Avenue, not too far from here. And I lived on East Elm Street, about 2 blocks from here also. So spent a lot of time in the East Side. Used to play football right out in the front yard before they added on. That's been 50-some years ago, I hate to say it. But so enough of that. But this was my ward, and did grow up here, and I still feel like I have roots here. So our department is, I like to think, it's the most important department in the city, and especially the water department, because you wake up with us every morning, you go to bed with us every night, and if you didn't have us, I think it would be a unpleasant situation. So, and also in the Third Ward, we just made a major addition to our water treatment plant, which is not that far from here, just down on North Street. We just put $15 million in a major improvement of that plant, where we put granular activated carbon filtration in that plant, which we did it for a couple reasons. One, so we could comply with all new EPA regulations on the water side, and I'll talk about EPA regulations on the sewer side in a minute. But we're highly regulated in the utilities department, and new regulations, we got to keep on top of things. And so we built carbon filtration, which is a real. So we have in the treatment process what we call multi-barrier approach. Every different chemical and every different treatment process is another barrier towards any kind of diseases, viruses, bacteria, anything in that water that, we remove. And carbon is that last step that really polishes that water, and it absorbs all types of organic compounds out of the water. It'll eliminate any taste and odor episodes from algae that we used to get maybe late fall when the reservoirs would get warm and get a lot of algae growth, and we aren't going to have that anymore. So that's a benefit. But the major benefit is we will comply with all the EPA regulations. And it's a nice looking building if you've went by there. It looks nice. It fits in nice. We were really in a tight footprint. We didn't have much room, so we had to go kind of tall. If you notice, that's taller than the rest of that plant. But to make everything fit in a tight space, we built that. So, we just completed earlier in the year, real early in the year, a new reservoir west of town. Another 5.1 billion gallons of water in our supply. We've increased our water supply by 50%, which is a huge addition. And we've really positioned this community for future growth, not only for residential use, which we have, but for commercial and industrial growth. A lot of times when a plant looks to locate in a community, they're going to look at your water supply. If you don't have the water supply, you don't even make the first cut. Then they look at, you have enough of it and we have enough of it. Then they look at price. And our water price is cheaper than anyone in the state of Ohio. We have the lowest water rates in Ohio. We used to be right there with Toledo. They used to be a little bit lower than us. Right now, Toledo, I think, just went a little bit above us. So our water rates are very inexpensive. And the quality is the best in the state. So that's on the water side. I mean, we spent a lot of money on capital improvements over the last couple of years, and things are going to kind of slow down, I think, a little bit in that standpoint. But they're going to pick up on the wastewater side. As you've been following the news lately, you see that we're I don't want to say doing battle, but we're negotiating with the EPA on our long-term control plan, and we're real close to a settlement, hopefully. And when that settlement's reached, we're going to have over $100 million worth of projects we're going to have to do. We're going to have to do them over a period of time, and the time frame still remains to be seen how soon. But we're going to start work probably next year on some work at the wastewater treatment plant, some sewer improvements out in the system. We just now are completing a major sewer improvement on College Street, a 72-inch sewer that all the way from North Street clear to the tracks, several thousand feet of line, and that sewer's 30 feet deep. And so, we always have ongoing projects, but we have some real large projects coming. And with the large projects, going to mean increased rates. We talked about that last night at Utilities Committee. Poor Jesse's on the Utilities Committee, and he had to sit through a long presentation last night. But we're getting the word out and explaining it, why it needs to be done, and why these increases need to take place. These are federal mandates that we don't have a lot of choice on. I mean, these are, we've been negotiating with the EPA for a dozen years now on this. I mean, this isn't something that just happened overnight. And we've been dealing with them, and we've been negotiating and trying to get the best deal for this community. We didn't just roll. A lot of communities, when they first started negotiating with the EPA, they just kind of rolled over and, okay, we'll take it, we'll do it, and they're in trouble financially. We have fought and fought and fought to try to get the best deal for this community. And I don't know if everybody's happy with it, but when the day is done, we feel that as the team, led by the mayor, including the mayor, has negotiated strongly for this community to get us the best deal. So we didn't just say, okay, we'll do whatever you want. We want some sound science behind it. It's not always there. And when you've got the EPA mandating things to you, you're going to do what they tell you to do. But you still just don't roll over. Our department also administers the garbage contract. I mean, we don't do it with city employees. We just administer the contract. Allied Waste is the hauler this year. Or this is, I think, the fourth year out of a 5-year contract. They do a pretty good job. I mean, they handle the solid waste, the recycling, and the yard waste. And we get more calls, I think, about garbage than we do about water or sewer, even though that's just a very small part of our budget. But you miss somebody's garbage and they're upset. But they respond quickly. They go out and they take care of the situation. So, did I miss anything? Oh, the water tower. Thank you. We just completed, actually it was July, we filled it. The water storage tower that's out on St. John's Avenue, we built a new elevated tank that holds 1.5 million gallons of water, and it actually will improve the pressures and the flows in an industrial area in the south, southeast, and southwest part of our community, which again will help attract businesses. We're doing everything we can do to make us, that economic tool right up here that we're ready, and we do the improvements to the infrastructure. The economy turns around one of these days. I think this community is going to be ripe for growth, and we're ready as far as utilities.
I've got one question. Do you know what the first raise is going to be in the sewer bill?
It depends on how much you use. Eventually,
$23 sewer bill now. What will it raise?
you have a $23 one, probably $4 or $5 a month. It's probably where the first time. Yes, yeah, by 4 or 5. The sewer rates are going to go up gradually over the next 9 years. I mean, we've lengthened it, we've stretched it out. Eventually, all the sewer rates, we're going to go to a flat rate sewer charge, where eventually everybody's going to be paying the same amount. We have a lot of disparity in rates now. We have customers. The thing about our sewer system is it's not all in the city. There are a lot of outside the city customers also, and they're paying a lot higher rates. And eventually they'll be, they're going to be paying a lot higher than what the county is, and that disparity, things have to be evened out in order for us to maintain the sewer system we have now. But that's going to be very gradual, and so you're going to see increases, but they're going to be just little steps as we go. So, Jesse, you had a question?
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
That was it.
To
Okay.
explain it.
Okay.
And those that are outside, understand that they've been paying a whole lot more than we have.
Oh, yeah.
It's about to,
Yeah.
It's about to even out.
Yeah, and not very far from here, right out in the Lost Creek area. So, yeah. So, it's all going to even out. So,
So it's going to be a flat rate sewer.
it's going to be a flat rate sewer bill eventually. Yes, yes. That's the goal. It's 50. We're trying to keep it at $50, and that's at 2% of the mean household income of this community. And so, hopefully we can maintain it at that. I mean, that's the key. If the EPA keeps pouring stuff on us, there's no absolute guarantees here, but that's the goal, and that's what we're arguing and fighting for right now. So, any other questions?
Thank you, Mike. Just to emphasize what Mike was saying, with the discussions with EPA have been long, they've been difficult, and they've not just been between us and the agency. Gary and Mike are a part of several professional associations, national associations. I'm a part of the Conference of Mayors, and through those organizations we've been working in tandem with other cities to also deal with EPA on the larger organizational basis, not just on the basis of our concerns. And what happened this past year was that EPA issued what they called a new policy on integrated planning. And under that approach, they have stated their intention to take into consideration, allow us to submit to them compliance plans that tie all of these systems together, both in terms of how they're scheduled and how they operate, but also how they're financed. And what we've discovered, I suppose, in the last 6 months is that while headquarters in Washington has issued the new plan, the folks that we report to and are accountable to in Chicago, the regional office, apparently didn't get the memo. And that may sound facetious, but actually it's not. They're a large organization, and getting everybody to march to the same tune is difficult. So we're in the process of arguing, and the 2% of median household income, which Mike referenced, is one of the points of debate, because in some cities they've been using the 2% of median household income as the floor, meaning the lowest number, and that they were looking to they were forcing cities into deals that were 3 and 4% of median household income. We've instead argued, along with the others that we're partnering with, that 2% must be the ceiling. And the $50 is our ceiling. And we don't care how we spend that $50 when we're sitting there with them on the other side, but it's $50. It's not $55, it's not $60. And if they want us to do $100 million worth of work, or $140 million work, or $200 million, which is where it was at one point, we're saying our costs are $50. And what you must do on your end is spread the amount of time that we're going to be given to accomplish this. We believe we've made some headway on that, but we don't yet have a deal. Because again, the folks in Chicago really haven't gotten the memo from Washington. We're staying engaged on the issue. We're not giving up, and we will continue to, as I've told our folks, we're not signing up for a deal we can't afford. And we also must have the opportunity, should things go badly, where we can stop it. So, for example, if you look at the county's population over the last 30 years, it has shrunken slightly. It's gone from, I think, about 108 to maybe 105,000. If you look at the cities, it's gone dramatically smaller. Based upon those numbers, if we would have another 20 years of that kind of trend line, we couldn't do these projects. So we've had to assume growth. We've had to assume positive revenues on our operating expenses. We've had to assume an overall approach that, in fact, gets these projects financed. But if we get to a point where those assumptions don't bear out, then I want the legal language in these agreements where we can say, we got to stop. We got to go back. We got to replan and not encumber with this community a set of obligations that we can't afford. And the $50 is where we're at. So it's been a long, very difficult set of discussions. It's not over yet, but we've decided that, as with several, actually in the middle of the summer, I think, is when we decided we needed to start sharing the information publicly so that folks could come up to speed on what exactly has been going on.
What was your feedback from Congressman when you made the speeches there? Any help there at all?
It's a very good question. I testified before the Congressional Committee. I think there were maybe 7 of us, maybe 8 that testified. There were more people providing testimony than there were congressional representatives in the room. And the chairman, Mr. Gibbs, was it Gibbs? I think it was Gibbs, who I spoke with afterwards, essentially said, well, we're going to give them a year and see if they change their tune, meaning EPA. So essentially they were giving them another pass. So at this point, I can say that we do have this integrated planning document. It was issued in the earlier part of the year. I am hopeful that they can crack the whip and get folks in Chicago and the other regional offices to pay attention, but no one has yet emerged with the first of any deal under the new approach. So still a work in progress. Chief Martin's here from the Lima Police Department. He can make some comments about the recent presidential visit. How's that to start with?
That's good to start with. Actually, though, before I start with that, I would like to just, in case anyone else has the same question that the young lady towards the back of the room had when I first came in, yes, I am a real police officer. I told her, though, Halloween was last month, not this month. As the mayor mentioned, we obviously did just have recently have a very big event for our area, and that was to have a sitting president come and visit and to speak in Lima. Anytime we have someone of that magnitude come and speak, there's obviously a very high potential for someone trying to use that as a way of gaining attention for themselves. And so the security measures that we have to go through are great. And I will just say that we were extremely blessed with a lot of help from a lot of other agencies. Just within the city alone, we had members of the Sheriff's Department, we had officers from Marion Township, Shawnee Township, Johnny Appleseed Metropolitan Park District. Rick Stolley allowed us to put the Lima Park Rangers to use. And we also had Bluffton Police Department down here with officers as well. And so all of that help allowed us to be able to meet all the security needs that we had inside the city, while at the same time helping to cut our overtime costs some. It was still rather expensive for us on overtime. And I should also mention that additionally we had a number of our unpaid auxiliary officers that were working for us that day as well. And a lot of people don't even realize that we have an auxiliary force with our department. Our auxiliary is made up of retired Lima police officers who are able to, through their auxiliary commission, maintain their peace officer certification for the state of Ohio. So they are still police officers, but when they actually come in and do work for us, they are not getting paid. Many people may be familiar with, for instance, retired Inspector Don Stratton, who spends a lot of hours volunteering on our desk every month. And what that allows, by him working the desk, it allows us to put that police officer that would be on the desk instead out in the street. And so again, that is being done because he still wants to stay active and contribute to the good of the community. But so we utilized a number of our unpaid auxiliary for the President's visit as well. And all that actually allowed us to get everything done that needed to be done without it costing the taxpayers as much as it otherwise would have cost. And so I'm very, very grateful for all the people that provided assistance for us. Fortunately, the event went off mostly without a hitch. We had one small little problem, but it was taken care of rather quickly. But it was actually a very exciting opportunity for us to be able to again have something of this magnitude and to literally get Lima out there on the national news in a good, positive way. Other good news that we have going on in the police department right now, I'm going to kind of just echo what gentlemen up here have all said. We are actually in the process of hiring 4 additional police officers right now. This will be the second round of hiring that we've done this year. The conditional offers of employment were sent out just a couple of weeks ago, and it's called a conditional offer of employment because they have certain conditions they have to meet. First of all, they have to return the letter to the Human Resource Department that states that they are in fact still interested in that position and are wanting to take it if given to them. The next condition is they have to pass a computerized voice stress analysis truth test. As something is similar to a polygraph. We use it in lieu of a polygraph, but they have to pass that CVSA to verify that all of the information they've given us in their background check is valid, that it's accurate. After that, they have to pass a psychological evaluation with a gentleman down by Dayton, Dr. Dom and Associates is the name of the psychological firm where we send them. The reason we send them down to Dr. Dom is because he is actually someone that specializes in public safety related employment issues. Upon successful completion of the psychological evaluation, the final step in that, or the final condition in that process is they must pass a physical, which includes a drug screen at the Lima Memorial Occupational Health. And once that's completed, then they will be brought on board. Of the 4 that we are hiring, 2 of them already have their peace officer certification that they've successfully completed. They have that in place, so we'll actually be able to put them immediately into the field training program. The other 2 that do not have their peace officer certification, we will be getting them into the academy, but then they will be actually completing it. We're looking at a March date as the earliest academy we're going to be able to get them into. In the interim, we will have them working either on our front desk or in other capacities where they can learn our reporting system and learn other parts of our process. And then when they come back from the academy, which will be sometime late spring, early summer, then we'll be able to get them into the field training program as well. Part of the reason why we are hiring 4 more at this point in time is that we've had some unexpected attrition this year. In spite of what the media sometimes likes to report about the excessive salaries of public employees, we've actually had 1 gentleman that left us for a much higher paid position in the in the private sector. We've had actually 2 additional officers that left us unexpectedly to take higher paying positions with the state of Ohio. So that's left us with other positions that we've had to try to fill, and so that's one of the reasons why we're actually hiring 4 this time around. The last thing I would like to mention in terms of economic issues relating to the police department is we are in the process of upgrading our computer-aided dispatch, or CAD software. It's actually going to allow us to combine several software systems within the police department, which will not only include our CAD software, but will also allow us to integrate our records management software, which will actually make things a lot more efficient. For instance, when someone's writing a police report, they'll be able to immediately import data from the CAD system into the report that they're writing. So it means that they're going to spend less time filling out that report so that we can get them back onto the street more quickly, get them back out there doing proactive police work. So that is something that, again, it's a item that's costing us, we haven't got the final bids in yet, but it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $250,000. But the current CAD system that we're using actually was put in place in 1987. And in terms of computers or technology, that is incredibly ancient. So we have had it upgraded as much as it can be upgraded, and frankly, we need to be able to get a better system in order to be able to continue providing the service that this community deserves from the police department. And then we're also upgrading our vehicle fleet, which again, because of some of the financial issues and the cutbacks that we've had over the years, our fleet's gotten much older than it should have, because as police cars go, you don't want cars that are too old or that are not fully mechanically sound involved in vehicle pursuits and that type of thing. So we're in the process of upgrading that as well. So again, we do have a lot of very positive, exciting things going on. If I can just throw in one little quick crime tip here too, just for everyone to know. This time of year, as it starts getting dark much earlier, the nights are longer, that also brings with it, every year we see this, an increase in theft offenses and burglaries. Part of that's probably also coupled with the fact that more people are going out of town around the holiday season to visit relatives, friends. But with that increase in thefts, I would just like to encourage everyone to make sure you're locking the doors on your cars, locking your house, keeping your house windows locked up, that kind of thing, because the more difficult you make it on a thief, thieves tend to be very lazy, the less chance you're going to be a victim. So we would ask that you try to get that news out there too to anybody that, to your neighbors, to your friends, your family. Again, use those locks, and make sure also if you see anything at all that you think is suspicious, call us. Because again, we've had a few burglaries lately where again, we've had neighbors that have said afterwards, I thought I saw something suspicious over there, but gee, I didn't want to bother you guys. And so it's not a bother to us. That's what you pay us for. So if you see something suspicious, call us so we can come out and hopefully prevent somebody from becoming a victim.
And lastly, Mr. Elstro, Director of Public Works.
Good evening. I think most of you here know that we've got 4 primary divisions: that of Building Department, Parks, Recreation, and Forestry that Rick talked about this evening, as well as our Street Department, who are fully involved in leaf pickup at this time. And by the way, the 5th and 6th wards have been cleaned up of the first pass. We're also up in the 1st ward right now, the 4th and the 7th wards for the duration of this week. We will make 2 complete rounds before we call it a day when it comes to leaf pickup. What I'm going to talk about is the engineering division and some of the work they do. I know that many of you are interested in some of the large projects, and of course Elm and Spring Street are now 2-way instead of 1-way. That project is complete, and as of yesterday, Elm Street from Woodlawn to Cable is now open. And if you haven't driven it, try to get out sometime this week and drive it. It's very, very beautiful and very serviceable, not only pavement, but it really has pulled that neighborhood together. It now has curbs, it now has sidewalks and trees, and it's very, very nice. So the question is, where are the red barrels, the orange barrels going to be next year? And one of the projects that I'd like to talk about tonight is very close to here. It will be the Bell Fountain Market Street corridor upgrade. This is a project that began back in about 2004. We were requested by downtown Lima to address the entrance corridor because as they saw it, and as we see it, and I'm sure you do too, the main corridors are really our front doors to our community. It leaves a lasting impression to the visitor who is coming into Lima to either visit relatives, or in some cases, people are coming in looking for a place to put up their next factory or locate their next business. It's very important for this community to be mindful of our image. In 2005, we actually commissioned a study. In 2006, we worked with a couple of different groups, including the Chamber of Commerce, who raised funds to actually perform a study of this corridor and what kind of upgrades should occur. In 2007, it went to the Planning Commission and was adopted as an official plan. In 2008, Council embraced the idea, and for the last 2 years, our engineering division has been doing the final design and working out the details and finding the money to do that, to do this work. It is going to be about a $2 million project, and it's out to bid right now. Next year, this $2 million will be spent on upgrading the lighting throughout this corridor, looking at the landscape over the last 15, 18 years. I know that we've put a lot of trees out there. Trees don't last forever, especially the pear trees that we put out. Some have outgrown their small environment on this main thoroughfare. Some have just reached the age where they need to be replaced. The lighting will be new state-of-the-art. It will have underground conduit rather than the overhead lighting. It'll be like the decorative lighting that we see downtown in the streetscape that's been placed there. Again, the area that is under the plan starts at Kibbe Street at Bell Fountain, comes through the downtown, past Memorial Hospital, past the new high school, through the streetscape area, and out Market all the way to Woodlawn. So any of those lights that are not decorative now will be replaced with decorative lights. Also, the traffic signals, you've seen over the past years when we could find funds, we've done a post and a mast arm rather than hanging traffic signals on wires. There are 5 additional intersections that have not been upgraded along this route yet. Those will also be upgraded. There'll be new signage. Again, this is an effort to dress up this corridor, make it more pedestrian friendly, more safe for pedestrians, improve the lighting, and in the end, again, present our best face to the community. We have other projects on the planning table as well, but I wanted to talk a little bit about this one because It's really typical of large dollar public works improvement projects. We tend to think that we see so many of these things, they're easy to pull off. And I have to give credit to our engineering division. They are very committed, very focused on these projects, and these projects do take years. In this case, this plan has been 8 years in the making, and next year will be the 9th year, but it'll be the year that we get it completed. So a little bit about that, and then I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Howard, before you go, how about an update on the grade separation project, which is also an East Side project?
East Side grade separation project, many people in this neighborhood are interested, but really people all over the county are interested in this. And during the presidential visit, even the Secret Service was interested, because as I was standing on the corner of Elm and Bell Fountain, and I found myself caught in traffic, I thought, well, I'll go ahead and make an afternoon, and I'll get to see the motorcade zip by. And as it got about a block away, I heard the ding, 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 and the lowering of the arm at the I&O Railroad in Bell Fountain. And I wish I could have got my phone out of my pocket and got some video. But it really typifies the need for the community to have this grade separation on the east side. The I&O dissects our community, and there is no grade separation through this town. And when those trains are in place, blocking those intersections, it is a risk to police, fire, and those of us who need medical attention, and I can count at least 2, and I think maybe 3 times that I've been on my way to Memorial Hospital, and I had to wait on a train. So it's not only an inconvenience, it's not only an impediment to safety, but it also deters commerce. Anytime we have traffic sitting, it's burning fuel, and in this case, that crossing serves multiple state highways, and it's a deterrent to commerce and folks in our community making a living. We've been pursuing east side grade separation now, I think, for about 12 years. And we're not going to give up. We have really pushed the ball forward down the field over these last 12 years. We did receive a compete request and secured a federal earmark, which is going to take us through the engineering phase and get us into the acquisition stage. And this coming year, we will actually we do have engineers working on what they call the final design. The preliminary and the final design are going simultaneously, and about this time next year we should have a set of plans. That is very important because in my years of public service in public works, it's those projects that are planned and you have designs for get funded. If you have a concept, the concept doesn't get funded. If you have a plan, a wide brush plan, it probably won't get funded. But if you have plans sitting on the shelf telling the contractor exactly what to do, those are the projects that get funded when money becomes available. So I'm very hopeful about this project. You will be notified of yet another public meeting this coming spring to see what ODOT and the federals call the preferred alignment. So we will be back in the neighborhood in the spring to show you and give you updates as to the east side grade separation. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, the earmark that we got 2 earmarks from Congressman Oxley's efforts. So it goes back a long time that we've had the funding and that we've been working on it. And there have been a variety of obstacles that have emerged, some of which have been technical and some of which have been funding. And just, I think in the last couple of months, we got the go-ahead to actually move to this next phase. So we're going to be doing that. Lots of topics. Be glad to answer any questions that you might have about any of what we've already addressed or anything else that you might have on your minds. Yes, sir.
Well, one, I don't know if it's a question or not, but we had a rash of juvenile break-ins and stuff. Is there anything that the city has planned to maybe give these kids something to do besides breaking into homes? Or would they even take it if they had the opportunity?
I believe, first of all, this was, I think it was on the east side, and we had some on the north side, and the police department really did, I think, a terrific job identifying and ultimately corralling kids. I think that, I mean, to the issue of what kind of activities can be offered, first of all, I guess I would assert that there are an entire range of activities offered now. The schools offer them, we offer them. We've got boys and girls basketball sign-ups going on right now, and we're very disappointed in the number of kids that have turned out. So we work hard to try to get the information out. Sometimes folks just don't participate. I do think that the schools have done an exceptional job of trying to connect both their academic outreach to the extracurricular, but there remains, it seems to me, a set of obstacles, perhaps cultural, to kids wanting to be involved in those kinds of things. And then there are agencies that are also working, Big Brothers Big Sisters, the YMCA, a number of people that are, trying to make programming available. And yet, if I'm meeting with a group of kids, I constantly hear there's nothing to do.
That's what we hear all the time when we talk to them.
I really believe there are things to do, but a lot of kids either maybe they don't know about them, but I think more often than not they're choosing not to engage. So I think what we can do is, and I don't know that that's any different than it was when I was a kid. There were certainly things I chose not to do, and other things that I did. But continuing to promote, continuing to try to connect kids to worthwhile things is something I think that we all have to do in different communities. I'm certain here at Forest Park there's an effort to get those kids here involved in things as there are in other church communities, but then there's also the more secular organizations that are out there also trying to connect with kids, and some with varying degrees of success. But there's no question that kids get themselves into trouble because they apparently have time on their hands. And I agree with you. So I think all of us need to probably pour more effort into promoting the opportunities that we have and that we want kids to be involved in. Other questions? Well, we really appreciate being invited tonight. Appreciate the time and hope that you found the information tonight helpful. And we look forward. This is the last City Focus meeting of this year, but with cooperation of LACNIP, we'll be scheduling things for 2013 and look forward to staying engaged with everybody. So thank you all.